If you're an athlete who lifts or a lifter who plays sports, balancing both can feel like a puzzle. Not only is it hard to find the time to get both of these in, if you do too much of one, the other suffers. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you have an incredible work ethic. You just need to learn the science of how to actually balance lifting and sports. If you don't know who I am, my name is Rios. I have a Bachelor of Science in Exercise Science, and I'm a certified strength and conditioning coach. And in this video, I'll give you a simple and complete guide on how to balance lifting and sports. Whether you're an athlete who wants to lift or a lifter who wants to play some sports, this video is for you. Before I get into how to actually balance lifting and sports, first you need to understand why balancing these two things are so important. And simply put, it is so much easier to overtrain when you're doing two different things rather than just doing one thing by itself. For example, if all you do is lift or all you do is lift sports, it's much harder to overtrain even though it is possible. But when you're combining sports with lifting or lifting with sports, it's definitely way more likely to overtrain, especially for people who love to be in the gym. Stacking lots of lifting on top of sports practices can lead to sore muscles and fatigue that lead to you performing worse in practice. Stacking sports on top of lifting often leads to more fatigue, which worsens performance in the gym. Overtraining doesn't just impact your performance, which will worsen your results. It impacts your recovery too, which is where you actually create the new adaptations. Performance gains don't happen during your session, they happen during recovery. If you do too much volume overall, you're not going to be able to recover, so your results are going to be pretty crap to say the least. So to summarize, overtraining is going to ruin your results, which sucks because you're putting in more work. Think of an NBA player who has a bunch of skill practices to do, yet runs a push-pull leg routine 2 times per week. His body's gonna be so fatigued, so he's gonna get trash results from his lifting routine, and he's not gonna start for his team because his performances in practice are gonna be absolutely crap. While overtraining happens far more frequently when trying to balance lifting and sports, there are some people who actually undertrain. They either do only one or the other, which I guess is undertraining, but more commonly they do too little of a volume for one or both, so they don't get any results. We need to make sure that we're giving each category enough volume to improve, or at times to maintain one while focusing on the other. A soccer player shouldn't just lift and condition 6 days per week and do no skills training in the off season and expect to become a better player. On the contrary, he shouldn't just skills train and ignore strength and conditioning and expect to become a better player, because his skills will be slow, he's gonna be weak, and he's gonna gas out fast. He also can't just do one lifting session and one skills session in the off season and expect to see any noticeable difference. We need to make sure that we strike the perfect balance so we make sure we don't overtrain, undertrain, and of course make sure that we're actually improving. Now that you know why balance is so important, it's time to learn how to actually balance lifting and sports. When it comes to selecting how many sessions of each you do per week, you want to use the inversely proportional rule. This essentially means that as skills training goes up, strength and conditioning goes down, and vice versa. So a high amount of skill sessions means lower strength and conditioning sessions, a low amount of skill sessions means higher strength and conditioning sessions, and a medium amount of skill sessions means a medium amount of strength and conditioning sessions. The high skill session category will likely be for team sport athletes in the preseason or in season, or for combat athletes because they don't have a dedicated off season. This makes sense, right? Because during the season and right before your season, you have a ton of practices. And of course, combat athletes are pretty much always training. Then the low skill sessions and medium skill sessions are going to be people who are in the off season or people who just do sports as a hobby. I really like this rule because it's a really easy way to make sure that you have good balance and you don't overtrain. When it comes to how many sessions you do per week, unfortunately, it really does depend, since there are a lot of factors that determine how much training volume you can handle. Some of these factors are schedule. Some people have nothing going on and can train all the time. Some people have a lot of responsibilities and don't have time to train very often. Another factor is lifestyle, so think diet, sleep, stress, those kind of things. If you have a great lifestyle, you can handle more training. If you have a crap lifestyle, your recovery is going to be crap, so you can't handle as much training. Another factor is experience level. The more experienced you are, the more training you can handle. The less experienced you are, the less training you can handle. Another factor is genetics. Some people have elite level genetics like myself and can handle lots of training sessions. And the last factor is essentially the level of intensity of your skills sessions. Some coaches have more technical styles and their practices aren't as fatiguing. Therefore, you can do more skill sessions or do more work outside of training. On the other hand, some coaches have a more intense style and their practices are essentially like a freaking workout, and you can't do very many of these practices and you're so fatigued that you can't do much work outside of practice. That being said, I have personally found that 8 sessions per week is going to be the higher end of what you should be able to do. Don't quote me on this or think that this is the mandatory amount of sessions that you should be doing. I've just personally found that this is a good number and you can adjust from this number based on the factors that I mentioned before. I also wouldn't count active recovery sessions, aka low volume, low intensity cardio, as a session here. For example, I currently have a client that trains Muay Thai 5 times per week and is doing a strength block right now. He's currently doing 2 strength workouts with 1 endurance day, and I have optional active recovery sessions in between intense workouts. But yeah, I found that 8 sessions per week is a good sweet spot to make sure that you're making progress, but also not overtraining. A good example to see this is the endurance block I gave this same client. Again, he was training Muay Thai 5 times per week, but I had him do endurance 3 times per week. And on one of the sessions, he did low volume endurance and did some strength and power maintenance. But looking at this weekly training plan, you see he does 8 sessions, 5 skill sessions, and 3 strength and conditioning sessions. I personally found that once you go up to 4 strength and conditioning sessions, it's more likely that you're going to see worse progress because it's a lot of volume. Some examples of 8 sessions per week are 5 lifting sessions and 3 sports sessions, 5 sports sessions and 3 lifting sessions, or 4 and 4. There is no right answer here, it's whatever your goal is. I do want to clarify again that this is a basic number that has worked for me. I can definitely see a case for less than 8 sessions per week and maybe more. It really depends on the person, their genetics, and their goal. For example, someone may find that upper lower 2 times per week works the best for them, and they also may just want to train their sport 2 times per week. In this case, they're doing 6 sessions per week, but they're still going to see amazing results. The only time I would recommend doing more than 8 sessions per week are if you have incredible genetics, an incredible lifestyle, or you do a good amount of low volume or low intensity sessions like the coach I mentioned earlier who does lots of technical work. Now that you know roughly the amount of sessions you should program, I want to give you some basic principles so you can create an elite plan. First, what is your goal? I know this sounds super simple, but I can tell you from working with lots of people, so many people completely ignore this. Lots of people have broad goals, or even worse, no goal at all. There's a famous saying, if a man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favorable. If you don't have a clear destination or a defined goal, your efforts will be ineffective. So decide if you want to prioritize athleticism, skills work, or aesthetics. If you want to improve athleticism, pick a particular goal. Are you just trying to improve general fitness, or are you trying to improve power, endurance, or strength? Once you have your main priority between skills training and strength and conditioning sessions, do 3 to 5 sessions of your main priority. Then do 1 to 3 sessions of the other. This is a great way to make sure that you're not overtraining, but you give more volume to your main goal so you see better results. The next principle is to program around your skills training. Because you're likely going to have a few days where you're doing skills work and strength and conditioning work on the same day, we want to make sure we're not stacking heavy sessions on top of each other. I mean, imagine doing a heavy leg workout where you go all out on, and then you have a tough sparring session later in the day, or you have a scrimmage where you're simulating an actual game. You'll be cooked. When programming skills training and strength and conditioning, you want to do 0 or lighter strength and conditioning days when you have a heavy skills session day. Whenever I had sparring when I was doing Muay Thai regularly, I would make sure to schedule a rest day on the day that I was sparring, because I had made the mistake in the past where I either did a heavy leg day and my legs were absolutely cooked after 1 leg kick, or I had done a push day and my shoulders were so tired that I could barely keep my hands up. And add general fatigue on top of that, and it's fair to say I wasn't able to perform at the best of my abilities. You also want to do the opposite and do light technical sessions or do no session at all when you have heavy lifting days. For example, my Muay Thai client would tell me when his lighter drill days were, and I would schedule more intense strength and conditioning days on those days. So to summarize that part, don't stack intense sessions on the same day. If you're an athlete, make sure you program around your skills training instead of programming around your strength and conditioning sessions, since you only go as far as your skills will take you in a sport. I don't care how athletic you are, if you can't dribble a ball, you won't be a very good player. And the last principle is to select an appropriate workout split. Believe it or not, the workout split you choose makes a big difference. Imagine trying to play soccer with sore legs. That's a recipe for disaster. I remember one time in high school, I hit legs, so my legs were sore. And believe it or not, my soccer coach decides to schedule a beeper test on the same day. I'm pretty sure you can guess how that turned out. Even if you're someone who prioritizes lifting, you still want to select a good split so your training sessions don't go terribly. If you're someone who's prioritizing skills training, you likely want to do a full body split. This split ensures you get enough frequency for each muscle group to see great results, but you're also not super sore after your workouts. Back in college when I was training Muay Thai like 3 to 4 times per week, I was doing a push-pull leg split twice per week, so a super high frequency. Doing this caused issues because I would be training with a particular muscle group being super fatigued or sore because I had an entire day dedicated to it. Doing a full body workout split is a great way to avoid this, as you're still hitting all the muscle groups, but you're not hitting one major muscle group super hard in one day to where it's sore or fatigued. If you're someone who's doing more frequent lifting, chances are you're going to select a higher frequency split, so upper lower or upper lower push pull legs. Here you want to structure your workouts around your practices or sport days. For example, I recently played on a futsal soccer team, and I knew that if I hit legs the day before or the day after, it would be bad news bears. So I made sure to structure my weekly training schedule to avoid this. When selecting a workout split, you need to keep these things in mind. To summarize, hitting one major muscle group super hard in one day will cause fatigue or soreness that will likely impact your skill sessions. So either avoid this entirely or make sure you program properly so you avoid key muscle fatigue when doing your training sessions. And that's a complete simple guide on how to balance weightlifting and sports. Thanks for watching the video. Be sure to like if you enjoyed the video and subscribe for more content like this. And I recently made a video video going over kettlebell warriors, which you should check out.